Hey everybody, it's VR Boomer here, and I thought we'd do something a little bit different. I've been experimenting around with this app called Vermilion, which is an oil painting app, and I thought I would walk you through it a little bit. Here we are in our lovely, lovely studio. First of all, you can move around just a little bit by pointing at the floor and pulling the trigger. You can see that square is the space you have to move in. It's not a whole lot, but let's step up to the easel here. Now I just want to go over the controls and everything that's available. There are 4 objects that you can manipulate in here, and we'll go over all of them. First here is the browser, and it's just sort of the menu. Call it a utility panel. Over here is our palette stand. Over here is our brush stand. And just to let you know, all of these have this little brass handle. You can use your grip trigger to grab it. You can tilt it, rotate it, and that will just stay wherever you want it. These will go up and down, so you can raise and lower them and move them around a little bit in the space. This does the same as the palette stand, up and down, moved around a little bit in the space. And this is the easel. This has got several on it. First of all, this brass handle lets you move it backwards and forward in the space a little bit, turn it right and left a little bit. This will raise and lower the entire painting on the stand. And the ones on the side let you raise and lower this, but also tip it this way, and you can tip it all the way flat that way. So you could, in theory, put this completely flat, set your canvas at the level of the table in real life, and then actually use that table as support if you want to do that. And also, up on top of here, there's a little light switch. You can raise and lower basically the brightness of the light. So let's go over a few things. Let's take a look at the utility panel. First of all, we've got a web browser here. You can follow along with Bob Ross or anything else you want. You can look at videos. You can actually, I've got bookmarked here. You can bring up pictures like this if you want to use a picture like that. And we don't have a canvas yet. Let's make the canvas really quick. So something else I need to show you here. Grab this corner here, and you can see we're going up and down in the sizes. You can go all the way up to, I don't know how big you get. 40 by 30. I guess 40 by 30 is the biggest you can get. Let's bring this down a little bit. And if you're ready, if you decided that's a canvas side, you just push and hold here. See that little green circle? And you have a canvas. I wanted to do that because I wanted to show you the projector. You click on the projector, and it will put the image that's in your browser right on your canvas. And you can move it around, you can center it, you can increase its brightness, kind of like fading a layer in something. So that's really handy if you want to have something you can do. You can bookmark. This is basically just a little web browser. When you're clicked up here, you can see you can back arrow, look at the different things, different YouTube videos and stuff like that, and they'll play in the video. I don't know, I got Georgia O'Keeffe. Forward and backward buttons, browser buttons, refresh button. These are all things you'll be used to do a search with the honestly kind of cumbersome keyboard, but here it is, and this is the default browser that they give you in the game. These are the layers. These work just like layers in any other piece of art. There's only 4. The beauty of these is if you have something painted and you want it as a background and you don't want to mix the paints, you can click up to a next layer and just paint over that. They work just like you'd expect layers to work. There's not a lot you can do to manipulate them yet, but there they are. These are our 2 default palette choices, and over here you can save more palettes. Let's take a look at our palette really quick. We put our hand over here, we see it go yellow, hit the grip trigger, and we've picked up the palette. This is what they call the Bob Ross palette. These are all the colors that Bob Ross would use. You also have a primary color palette. Now these are pigment primary colors, not light primary colors. So we've got blue, yellow, and red, and white, and there's no black on here, interestingly. And I honestly don't remember the names of all of these. I should look that up at some point. Anyway, those are your palettes. We'll put the palette back down. Over here you can save your artwork, start a new painting, load an old painting. These are some of the defaults that come with it. So if we click yes, we will load that painting right over onto here. That's not a default. That's a crap painting that I did. And also here you can start a new painting. It'll get rid of the old one, and again, resize it however you want to. Hold your finger right there, and we've got a fresh clean canvas. Isn't that nice? Here's the export feature. If you export a studio photo, it'll be just like taking a photo like this. If you go to gallery or neutral, it'll be just the piece of artwork itself. And you can also export 3D models as well, which is very, very cool. I look forward to finding a way to use that. You can share it right to Facebook if you want, or you can save it to your Oculus, and it'll show you right there where it's located on your Quest. Here's some of the control options. Canvas mixing sensitivity. This yellow mark is the default spot for it. That shows how much the paints are going to mix. If you dial that all the way down, it'll be almost as if like the existing paint that's on the canvas is more dry, so it won't mix as much while you're painting. Here's some Art General. Obviously we've got language choices. That was the Manor. This is the Loft. A little stark, a little white wouldn't be my preference, but it's neutral. And Pass Through. I don't know what this is going to show you, but this is actually me in my space. I don't know if you're going to see this on the video or not, but this is my messy hobby room. Not where I normally play, but for doing this, and my microphone's in here. My good quality microphone is in here, which is why I'm in here doing this. Let's go back to the Manor, shall we? We got a brush pressure indicator that we can turn on and off, and brush names we can turn on and off. We can leave those on. Oh, and you can exit from here too. And of course, you've got help features right there. We've already looked at the palette really quick. Let's look at the brushes. Actually, ooh. Ha, I left a bit of a mess there. So this is a mixing tray. You can take your paints from your palette. Oh, it's because I loaded that other painting. You can take your paints from your palette. You can mix them down here. This is thinner. It's not brush cleaner. But let's go over some of the different brushes, shall we? And I'll demonstrate some of the painting. So since I'm a native English speaker, we're going to go top to bottom, left to right. So let's start here with our 1-inch filbert. Now, you can see right there it was showing you, actually, I'll do that. If you point the brush somewhere, hold the grip trigger, you can move your hand and change your grip on the brush. So you can be holding it like this, or be holding it like this, and you can do that with all of the brushes. Now, as it showed, your thumb stick will change some things. If you go right and left, it will change the type of brush. So we've got the 1-inch flat and the 1-inch filbert. And now if you hold it up and down, you can see the brush gets thinner and thicker. Isn't that lovely? So I'm actually going to adjust my position here a little bit, step a little bit closer to the canvas. There we go. So I was bumping up against the wall in my hobby room here. So let's start with a nice bold. You know what? Let's switch to the primary color palettes. This will be a good example, chance to demonstrate this. So we dip in here. We've got some blue, and we can put some blue on the canvas. It's not too much, though, is it? Here we go. I think I was going a little too far in. I was pushing too far in. I wasn't hitting that. You can see this brush is very rough. It's not very smooth. We got a lot of brush lines there. We can swap over to filbert. And this will be the same. We'll load it up. You can see there's actually paint on the brush. This is acting really weird, and I don't know why. You were picking up that orange. Maybe it's just hard to see. Okay, so this part's not working so well. Haha. You can see that the paints will mix as they do that. If you want to undo, your left thumbstick will do a couple of undos. It won't do many. If you want to clear, if you've done a little bit on the palette, you want to clear that a little bit off, you can hit one button, and if you hit the X button, right, the lower button, the X button, will step you back once. The A button will wipe it out completely. If you want to clean your brush, Sorry, X and Y. If you want to hit your brush, you hit A. And B is actually will steady the brush, so it doesn't have the hand jitter in there as much. You'll see it's moving. Maybe you can't see. It moves it more slowly. Anyway, so that's the 1-inch brush. No, I don't want to pick up another one yet. Just want to put that one down. There we go. Now if you want to clean the canvas off, you can pick up your cleaning rag here, and if you wipe a little bit, see it takes some of it off. You dunk here in your paint thinner, and it takes more of it off. Give it a really good soak, and it basically just acts like an eraser. Clean that all right off. Put a little cleaning rag back there, and let us grab our bristle brush, shall we? The fan brush. So now you can swap from a smooth fan brush to a bristle fan brush. So the smooth one is a little bit lighter in shade, and again, this one you can zoom in and zoom out to make it bigger and smaller. And we'll dip into our blue here. Oh, look at that. Isn't that lovely? That's the smooth brush. Here we go. A couple ways you can clean your brush. You can hit the A button. That's one way to clean your brush. Let's get some more paint on here. Look at that, isn't that lovely? And of course there's infinite amount of paint on your palette here. You can never run out. But the brush will eventually, you start to see some brush as I go, and there's less and less paint until the paint's all gone off the brush. So eventually you use the paint off. You can also come up here in your cleaning rag, just wipe it on there. Let's switch over to the bristle fan brush. Dunk this in the red. You can see the line is a lot coarser. And let's clean that off. And now you'll see, if we come in like this, we can start to mix the paints. Blurp, bloop, 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 bloop. Blurp. Well, see, I've mixed it on the tray there. And if I didn't want to do that, I can just hit go back once and it'll wipe that away. Go back there. So there's our yellow and our red. It makes orange. Some of you will know. This is different than the light coloring. I don't know if you're used to the light palette. It is a little bit different than the pigmented palette. We got the blue there. Got the yellow there. We get them mixing together. And we got lovely, lovely green. Isn't that pretty? Look at that. Lovely. And of course blue. And red. You can see some of the paint texture right there. See that right there? That's the paint texture. We've got lovely purple. Oh, isn't that delicious? Right. So that's the fan brush. Put the fan brush back. This is our round brush. Let's reset our palette here. Let's switch palettes. What do you think? Doink. Let's go to the Bob Ross palette. Let's get in some green here. So you can dip in there, load that brush up, and pew, 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 pew. This one does not leave. There we go. Now we've got a nice fully loaded brush. This one does not have any options. You can't switch it around. If you dunk in the thinner and use this, then you're thinning the paint out and you'll get almost like a transparent. Here, let's show you that. We're getting the green here, dunk it, get more in the green. And you see that's like a transparency almost. It is picking up the colors underneath it. But it's like translucent. You can get different kinds of effects that way. Let's clean that brush off. Over here, we have our smooth dagger brush. And this is, again, a bristle version and a smooth version. And we can scale these both way up and way down. And these are two different brushes. So look, if we dunk this one in red, see we got plenty of red paint on there. And we switch over to the other one, there's no paint on it. See that? So we'll scale that up. Let's get a lot of paint on there. What do you think? Boom. So you see with the bristle ones, they're very rough, they're very coarse. You get a lot of that bristle look coming through them. Now if we switch over to the smooth one, what do you think? Green? Let's get some green here. And you'll see this, a lot less with the brush marks, a lot smoother laid on there. You can mix the paints in. You'll see as you go over them, they mix together and they'll blend on the canvas. Alright, that's our dagger brush. We got our smooth flat brush here. Again, we got a smooth and we got a bristle, and these are both scalable as well. So let's get some nice blue here on this brush. Get it loaded up. See, it's nicely loaded. And we'll try and get some colors here. Load up, load up. Am I just maybe if I oops. Shoot it down, put it up, here we go. You can see it's already mixing. It mixes on the canvas. That's the rough one. Again, you've got a lot more bristle to that one. Let's swap over to the smooth one. Let's pick up the darker blue on the smooth one. What do you think? Brush nicely loaded. Oh, look at that. Isn't that lovely? Oh, look at it blend. And we've got a green. Hit A and clean it off really quick. Come up here with the blue, it'll go through the yellow and mix with the tint, and then we've got yellow. Look at the nice smooth transitions that they do. Isn't that wonderful? Let's pick up some red here. Come in with the red up here. And down through, and it changes to purple, and then changes to blue going out. Isn't that wonderful? Now here is the rigger brush. Apparently so named because they were designed to paint rigging on ships in the old, because you need to be able to do thin lines, but you don't want too small of a bristles or you're going to run out of paint. So this is thin, but it's got nice long bristles. And my hands are nowhere near steady enough to do well with this, but there we go. So we do some nice long straight lines with this. We picked up the step back, we'll clean the brush. Like that. And now this is a good one where the hand stabilizer, we hit the B button. See, it says press B to disable. Let's draw the line. See, it loses a lot of that right and left jitter. It's a little bit straighter, but let's switch that off. Try and do a similar line next to it. And you'll see a lot more of my hand jitter, my arm jitter being in there. So it does a good job of stabilizing it, help you straighten out your lines a little bit. Here we go. That's that brush. The palette knife is a fun one. You can use the edges, you can use the flats, you can totally screw things up as you're trying to get a good grip on it. What color should we do? Let's do this green here. So we're going to get in here, you can see there's tons of it, and you can just flap, just smear it on. Oh, that's so much fun. You can really see the texture with this. Paint's going on nice and thick right there. Cleans off the same way, you just give a little tap on the button. Go in there, and you can see the paint is so thick it's going over the top. But if we work with it, it'll start to blend in. Get them to mix together there. See, look at that color mixing. Isn't that wonderful? Look how that works. You can also use the side, get it loaded up, and you get kind of crackly, jittery little lines if you're just using the side. You're not getting the nice big flat coverage like you do with that one, huh? Palette knife is a very fun tool. Stay up there. Now we've got the good old-fashioned 2-inch brush. There are no options on this. There are no options on that one either. Let's load this up with some black, and we can just slam it in there. Just cover large areas with this. And you can blend. Let's see, we get some nice blending there as we're working. Look at that. Isn't that wonderful? Blam, blam. This is a good time to show. You can grab this corner here, shrink the painting way down. The painting is still the same size. You've just zoomed out or zoomed in, and this lets you cover much larger areas with much less effort, you see? So if you need to do like a complete fill-in, whoops, see, you do that all the time. If you need to do a complete fill-in, you can just do that and grab that. Look at that. Isn't that wonderful? We've got everything mixed up. We need to clean this brush off. Have I showed you the other way to clean the brush off? Yes, this is Bob Ross inspired. You can smack it against this easel. See, it's got paint on it. now it doesn't have paint on it. Isn't that wonderful? Let's see how far back we can undo here. Oh, that's a lot more than I thought. Alright, that's as far back as we can undo. Alright, that is the 2-inch brush. Now we're going to grab the smooth 1-inch oval, and this also has a bristled version as well. Let's get into this red here. This holds a ton of paint. You can really just slam it in there. You get a ton of paint on the canvas with this one. Blam, 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 blam. It's very thick. You can see how thick it. You can, if you look in close, you can see the paint textures in there. Blam, just power it on in there. And so there's a bristle one and a smooth one. The bristle one, as with the other bristle ones, will be a lot rougher in texture, as you can see. Let's load some paint on there, and you can see you've got a lot more bristly kind of look to it. It's not as smooth, it's not as filling as that one is. This is a blending tool. This one you can go thicker and thinner. Oops. Up, down. So we go thin, we go thicker. This will hold a ton of paint. I don't use this one as much for the actual painting, but you can see just how much paint this thing holds. Look at that. And it's still going, 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 still going. Look at all the paint, and there's still paint on there. So it's great if you want to load a ton of paint on like that, but what this is really good for is blending. You can see, that's a great example. You can see it's just like a blend tool in Photoshop or whatever, and it just softens the lines out. Doesn't really mix the paints a lot. Just softens the edges, smooths them out, fades the edges, gives this nice poofy texture. Doesn't move the paint a whole lot. Doesn't blend the paints. You can see right there. It's not actually blending the paints, it's just softening the edges. Like that. Get a nice soft appearance that way. And this is the color shaper. I haven't used this one a whole lot. This one you can also scale. But this is kind of like a silicone squeegee. And you can kind of squeegee in here and just kind of mush things around. If you're on an edge here, you can kind of come in, kind of push in the edge. See, we can squeegee things around. Push the colors where we want them to be. Push, push. Let's shrink this down. The brush is getting too big sometimes here. See, it just kind of smooshes the color around a little bit. Brings it in there. Messes it up. This isn't really a brush. Can this even hold paint? It sort of holds paint. It does hold a little bit of paint. That's not really what it's for. It's meant for coming in afterwards and kind of moving things around a little bit. And the cleaning rag we've already talked about. If we want to erase, just dip it in the thinner. Look at that, we've got a nice clean canvas. Look at that, isn't that wonderful? And this is the mixing tray I've showed you before. If you have some paint that you've mixed up, say you've done this and you really like that pinky shade of orange brown, you can add it to the mixing tray. And you can work with it down there. Now you can reset your palette. Now let's say you want to adjust that a little bit. You can do it down on here. Mix it around, add a little bit of black right there. Or you can take it off of here, get it back onto your palette. So if you want to keep that as a primary and work with it up in the palette a little bit to get the kind of shade that you want, you can do that as well. Just throw that in. Look at that. Look how much that moves around. Just grabs the paint underneath. This is wet on wet style of painting. So it always stays wet. That's the thing with oil paints, because this is meant to represent oil paints. They stay wet for a very, 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 very long time. Days, weeks, sometimes before they're really actually dry. A bit of blue there. Totally overdid our blue there. Drop in there. These nice teal colors. Look at that. Paint, and you can see the paint texture. So you come in here, oops, come in here, blam, blam. You can see the paint textures on there. Very cool, very cool. Let's clean our brush off. Whoops, we're picking some up there. There we go. Boink. So that is really it for Vermilion. I'm not sure how much more there is to say. Oh, there are a couple other adjustments. Actually, let me show you that really quick too while I'm looking at it. So this, let's put this brush back. There we go. So this moves the whole thing up and down like this too. So if you want to keep it the same size and raise it up and down, and you can see the paint textures there. If you look at that as I grab this, slide this down, you'll see the glossiness of the paint change. You can notice it especially right up here. You see the brightness of that change. So that will raise the whole canvas up if you don't want to change the scale of it. Like I said, and then when you're done with your mixing tray, you just use this to clean it off. Alright, and that is the painting program Vermilion. I thought I'd give you guys a chance to see how it looks. As always, if you enjoy my content, please do share, give a like, share, and subscribe down below. As always, be kind to one another, and we'll see you in the next video.